Hey, did you see on the news that Obama lifted the embargo act on Cuba?
OMG, really? Tell me about it.
Okay, well, I gotta start from the beginning. The U.S. declares war on Spain, wins, and seizes Cuba. Then, in 1902, Cuba becomes independent and the U.S. enforces a Platt Amendment.
What's a Platt Amendment?
It's pretty much how the U.S. can keep an eye out on Cuba from a distance.
Wait, didn't the U.S. abandon its right to intervene in Cuba's internal affairs in 1934?
Yup, and in 1961, the U.S. breaks off all of its diplomatic relations with Cuba.
Jeez, talk about a messy breakup.
Then, Cuba got a makeover and renamed itself as the Cuban Communist Party in 1965.
They couldn't have stayed communist for too long.
You know what? That is true. So in 1976, Cuba adopts a new socialist constitution and Fidel Castro is elected president.
How did Cuba survive all this?
You know, I'm not really sure, but they are still here today. And the thing is, it gets worse.
What do you mean?
Poor Cuba was getting subsidies from the USSR, but suddenly it crashed, and Cuba went down with it in 1993.
Holy guacamole! Did the U.S. step in to help Cuba and its economy?
You know what? We sure did. The U.S. tightened its embargo and suggests some market reforms to improve Cuba's economy in 1993.
What did the U.S. suggest? The U.S. dollar, transformation of state farms into anonymous cooperatives, or the legalization of little individual private enterprise?
Why do you keep answering your own questions? But yes, that's exactly what happened.
I'm just guessing. But how was Cuba's GDP, exports and imports?
The GDP decreased 50% between 1989 and 1993, and the exports and imports fell by 75%.
How did the people do during this?
Well, the standard of living declined, and if they owned a small business, it was regulated to try to get somewhat of a recovery.
Did they ever get out of this recession?
Well, they did increase government spending, and probably got money from other governments too.
Sorry, I overheard, but are you talking about Cuba?
Do you have any information?
Sure do. I just researched something after I heard what happened to Cuba.
Me too. I just searched some on my phone.
So how's Cuba's economy now?
Well, the GDP's growth declined since 2005, which was 11.2%, and in 2013, 2.5%.
And currently in 2016, Cuba's GDP growth is at 1.3%.
Well, how are Cuba's people?
Well, the home salary is $20 a month, but its unemployment rate is only at 1.6%, and 8.6% of workers in Cuba are self-employed, which means the government let loose of its grip on business regulation.
Adding on to that, 79% of Cubans said they didn't make the economic system, and 70% wanted to start their own business.
But although people want to open their own businesses, the government is trying to help them achieve this dream, but instead puts state-owned companies out instead of helping the people create their own.
But what about imports and exports? Is that the causing decline in Cuba's GDP?
Cuba's imports 80% of its food, and although it has valuable resources like nickel and oil, the imports are greater than the exports, meaning there is a recession.
Well, they got one thing going for them then.
Well, that reminds me. Fidel Castro was in power for 5 years and turned Cuba into Marxist-Leninist society.
Huh, what's a Marxist-Leninist society?
Well, it's basically the beginning of a socialistic state.
So what happened after he turned Cuba into a Marxist-Leninist state?
Well, production fell shortly after, and there were more modest goals after Fidel Castro came into power. It also decreased emphasis on rural incentives, creating more efficient economic organization.